So The Flash was my most anticipated film going into 2023. And did it live up to the hype? Let's talk about it. So The Flash, the newest DC film directed by Andy Muschietti, starring Ezra Miller as Barry Allen / The Flash. Now, before we get too deep into the review, let's just get this out of the way up front. Ezra Miller has had quite a few issues outside of the movie. If you've been aware of their public antics, I know it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I definitely have not been crazy about some of the shenanigans that they got into. And I know there's a lot of stuff still pending, but we're here to talk about the movie itself. And if you didn't want to see this movie or aren't going to see this movie because of what they did, I don't blame you. I mean, you feel how you feel and you're going to go about it the way you're going to go about it. For me, I'm not going to let the actions of one individual ruin seeing a film that was worked on by tons of people. Like Andy Muschietti as a director, like this is his film. I think he does a really great job with this, and it'd be sad for people to miss out on a film because of one person's bad actions off camera. And all the hundreds of people that worked on this film, I think, deserve to at least see their film be seen. So please keep that, I guess, in mind. I mean, you have your own moral compass you're going to follow, so you do you. But for me personally, I wasn't going to let the actions and antics of one individual deter me from seeing this film that I actually have been excited for years, a character that I love. And in terms of their performance in the movie, Ezra Miller actually does a really good job. Just saying, that's the performance in the movie. Keeping all that outside stuff on the outside. We're going to stay here in the movie bubble. And let's quickly talk about the synopsis, and then we'll talk about my spoiler-free thoughts on the film. So essentially the plot here is very akin to the Flashpoint storyline in DC Comics, where Barry Allen, the Flash, goes back in time to save his mom, and because of that causes a ripple effect on the DC timeline that changes a bunch of stuff. And in the comics, it's I guess semi-spoiler for the comic. It's been around for a while. So in the comic, though, it's Bruce Wayne's dad who survives and teams up with Barry Allen as Batman. But in this new movie, it's Michael Keaton's Batman from the 1989 and 1992 Batman films, Batman and Batman Returns, respectively. And so that, it's not a direct adaptation of Flashpoint, but they take Flashpoint as like a template and work a very unique Flash story into that kind of weaves in and out of the DC multiverse. And I guess before we go any further, if you're not into all the multiverse films that both DC and Marvel are doing, if you're not into alternate timelines and time travel and all that stuff, if you're bored, this might not be the film for you. If you're just over that sort of stuff in these films, then definitely this might not be your cup of tea. But with that being said, I thought that the way they did their time travel / multiverse stuff was very interesting and unique unto itself. They had some unique, cool rules that they kind of set up in this that I wasn't expecting. I think that the uniqueness of that was a big strength to this film. They explained some stuff away. Some stuff still kind of left hanging, but it is what it is. Let's talk about some more of the cast here. Michael Keaton's return. Let's get it out of the way. Michael Keaton's great. It's cool seeing him pick up kind of where he left off from Batman Returns. Years have gone by. It's a different Gotham City he lives in, and it's a very different Bruce Wayne from that Batman, obviously 30 years removed. And when we meet him, he's got a really fun scene when he first pops into the film, which I think is absolutely great. Any scene he's in, he does add a very fun level of gravitas and just a little bit of nostalgia, because he throws some of the lines at you that we're all familiar with if you've watched the previous two Batman films, which I did do retro reviews of recently, and it was cool to see. But they didn't feel too ham-fisted, like, hey, let's have him say the thing that everybody knows. I think they kind of worked most of them in pretty organically, which I appreciated. And in the context of the film, like, you'll see them in the trailers, but in the context of the film, I think they actually work a lot better. And on top of Michael Keaton, we also get introduced to Sasha Cale's Supergirl, who in this timeline that Barry jumps to is there instead of the Kal-El / Clark Kent we meet in Man of Steel. So the timeline's tweaked a little bit, so when the Zod invasion happens, which you see in the trailers, everything kind of plays out a little bit differently, which I think is unique and very cool in and of itself. You have Ron Livingston, who comes in and plays who plays Barry's dad, Henry Allen, and he replaces Billy Crudup from the Justice League films. And I think Ron Livingston did a great job. I thought he also added a little bit of grounding to this world, and I just like his interactions with Barry. I liked how that dynamic worked. As brief as it was at times in the film, I thought that really worked. And then Barry's mom, Nora Allen, played by Maribel Verdu, I thought she was great. She's got a few scenes, and I just, the more we get into the film, the more charming I think she is when you see her. And there's definitely a scene towards the end that really tugs at the heartstrings with her that I just totally dug. I thought she was great in this. Of course, Michael Shannon comes back as General Zod, like I mentioned. The only downer here, well, I think he plays that exact same Zod with the exact same demeanor and cadence. It just, he doesn't get enough meat on the bone. He kind of said it in an interview where he just didn't have as much motivation. It was just kind of rehashing what he did, and there wasn't really as great a performance there as he had in Man of Steel, but it was still great to see him play this character because I thought this was a great character in Man of Steel. So yeah, I think the acting across the board is fairly solid. The one weak link here might be Kiersey Clemons as Iris West. She doesn't get as much screen time as I thought she might, but I just feel like she was very overshadowed in a lot of her scenes, and just, I don't know if it was the characterization, if it was her acting. I don't want to, down on her. She's just the lower link in the chain, but I still thought she was all right. The big thing a lot of people are also talking about with this film are some of the special effects not being great. And I've seen, Andy Muschietti, the director, kind of defend some of the special effects, saying they look a certain way for a reason, because people are saying they look bad or not finished. But to me, I think when you see the movie, there is a big portion of this film that is very CGI heavy that I don't want to spoil, but it felt like a very stylistic choice, and I think Muschietti kind of reiterated that. So it didn't bother me watching the film. I mean, it's noticeable. I won't say it takes you out of the film, but it's just noticeable. But it still worked for me. I have no big complaints about that. I think the film, it does kind of drag a little bit in the middle. I do think the story isn't as complex as maybe it wanted to be. It definitely keeps a good solid theme from beginning to end, but there are some parts where it did feel a little worn and just didn't fully mesh at times, which isn't, to say it was bad at any point. It was just kind of like, okay, we're kind of treading water here, and some stuff gets sped up just to get from point A to point B, like towards the third act, and so a little rushy, but I mean, it happens. And I think in terms of a lot of the DC films, like James Gunn, the new co-CEO of DC Films, was saying this is one of the greatest superhero films ever. I think this is a good film. It's not a great film. It's definitely got some flaws, but I still enjoyed it. I think maybe upon further rewatches, maybe I'll enjoy it more. Having Ezra play two versions of Barry Allen was interesting, and I don't know if that's the route I would have gone, but I would have liked to see him maybe stick a little bit more to that Flashpoint story if they were going to do it. But hey, I mean, it still works in this film, and they do some interesting, cool stuff with our main Barry and his younger version that he runs into in the film. But yeah, so I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to be giving this film a B+. This is my most anticipated film of the year. I had such high hopes for it. Kind of the more I've heard about it and seeing some reviews, and I've avoided all the spoilers, I had my expectations maybe knocked down a little bit. Don't expect the greatest film ever, but still expect a decent film. And I do think it's a decent film. It just never gets to that A level for me. And like I said, maybe upon a rewatch, maybe it'll get there. But so that's my thoughts on the film. And I do want to say there is a great big chunk that I want to talk about so bad that I thought was a really cool aspect of this film. And there is a post-credit scene at the end. You have to stay through all the credits for, and I'll say, if you're not fully invested in the DC universe, you might want to just skip it. To me, I was a little disappointed with the post-credit scene personally, but the end tag of the movie before the credits start, like the last scene of the movie before the credits start, I was a little shocked, to be honest with you, what they did. but it was very cool nonetheless. But yeah, so what do you guys think? Are you into seeing The Flash? Are you excited to see The Flash? Are you a DC fan, DC hater? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys could, please hit that like button, subscribe button, the little bell notification to be notified whenever I drop new videos. It would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, so thus concludes our road to The Flash, coming to this film, and also ends an era of DC films that started 10 years ago with Man of Steel. I know we still technically got a couple films left, but The Flash is kind of that marking, in the DC universe now, where kind of from here on out, things are going to start shifting and changing a little more as we lead to a new Superman film in a couple years, which I'm excited about. But what is cool is that this is a standalone film. I feel like it doesn't really set up the new universe. I think everybody was thinking maybe it would end and set up the brand new universe we're going to go into, but it really doesn't. I mean, it leaves a door open for it, but it doesn't really show you what's beyond the door. It just opens the door, doesn't tell you anything else. But so I've been rambling, guys, and I guess until the next review, I'll be seeing you.